Welcome back to the Real Life Theology podcast. This is part 2 of a 4-part series on discipling people into emotional and spiritual health. Today's episode touches on the topic of understanding and identifying stages of maturity.
Okay, so you guys get the gist of the assessment. Now be reminded that sometimes with those assessments, we're doing those for people, not giving them to them, because if you have an infant or a child, generally speaking, they can't handle taking the assessment because they find out they're an infant or a child, because most don't know unless they were baptized just very recently, okay? You will have people that, as you are talking through and you're getting to know them, which is part of disciple making, that's when you will have these kinds of questions rolling through the back of your mind. And what you're looking at really is this fruit, right? So first we're going to do this amazing slide. Yeah, okay, so I'm joking because I'm the worst possible graphics person you've ever seen, and I made this myself, and I feel really good about it. Thank you. It took 3 hours. So just to let you know, it took a minute. It took a minute and was not worth the outcome.
There's a lot of truth tellers in here.
Yeah, it was not worth the outcome, but you get the idea, right? So, on there, you are looking for this sweet spot, right? This maturity in both. And I think too often we look for one or the other, and we're trying to get them to match. So those people that are really emotionally mature, but they don't know their scripture, we're looking to help them understand scripture and apply it to get to here, right? But you will not get somebody spiritually mature if they are not also becoming emotionally mature. You will not get a spiritually mature person, I'm going to repeat it, who is not emotionally mature. It doesn't happen independently. And so you may get somebody with a lot of head knowledge that appears spiritually mature, but if they are not maturing emotionally while they are gaining that spiritual maturity, they will not become fully mature.
There are some great Christian authors, seminary professors, lead ministers who are not emotionally mature.
What? What do you mean? But again, remember, we are looking for Christ-likeness under stress. We are looking for remaining emotionally stable during stress. Like they are remaining themselves during stressful times. Not like what I did in the night. Leaders' maturity matters. Like I've said already a gajillion times here now. Hurt people. We've all heard that. But it's spiritually immature people that are causing this church hurt. They cause the majority of the church hurt because they don't handle things in a great way, like the gentleman in the back was describing. If you have a church leader that acts that way, which we've all experienced it, if you've been in ministry more than 6 months, you've experienced it, that's where the hurt comes from. But so what are we looking for? Well, Galatians tells us, right? We're looking for fruit of the Spirit. We're looking for this in everyday life, in their work, in their home, in their family, in their interactions with church. Too often, I know I can be talking to a church leader, and they're like, "Oh, I really think so and so should lead a group." And I'm like, "Okay, well, talk to me about the fruit that they're producing." And they're like, "Oh, well, he's really successful in business, and their family is super involved in children's ministry." I'm like, "Okay, well,
they're wealthy.
They're wealthy. They volunteer regularly." I'm like, "Okay." They're like, "Yeah, but how about patience? Have you been in their house when their kid's acting up? How do they handle the situations? Have you interacted with them when they have a disagreement with their spouse? How do they handle that situation? Have you disagreed with them? How did they handle that situation?" And when they start going, "Well," I'm like, "Well, you better get to know them a little bit better." They may be mature, but they may not be. High likelihood that they are not yet. So we want to talk about the stages, okay? So I'm going to talk about these stages, and then JP is going to talk about how to get from one stage to the next, okay? So we go from spiritually dead to infant. We are going to stick to this side of the chasm, okay? And so we've got infant, we've got child, we've got young adult, parent, and grandparent. All right, now a lot of people have a lot of authors have very similar diagrams. Most do not have grandparent on it. All right, we feel strongly in grandparent. This is Paul teaching, right? When he sends them out, he's teaching them to do the next generation to the next generation. He's not just saying one. And Jesus didn't do that in the Great Commission. Keep going. If he meant it just to go one generation, he would have told them to keep reproducing, right? And the 12 people can't just keep reproducing one at a time without those 12 reproducing, right? And that's the grandparent. So let's start with spiritual infants. How do you know somebody's a spiritual infant? Well, a lot of times they don't know what they don't know, right? So you've got these people that they may have been a Christian for a very long time, okay? So don't let time in fool you. But they have unrealistic expectations for the church, right? The church is supposed to fulfill everything. What do you mean you don't have a Wednesday night program? What? What do you mean you don't have childcare for this event? What do you mean that you didn't have, 10 gluten-free options? Right? And they may be
from experience.
I know, right? 100%. 100%. They may be mixing religions. Right? They may mix up religions and be like, oh, everybody's fine. I mean, there's lots of ways. Lots of ways.
Spiritual infants can be universalists.
Yes, very much so. And they may be in your church. They may be in your church. They may say things like, I had no idea the Bible said that. Really? Are you sure? Like, yeah, no, I'm sure. I'm sure. My prayers aren't working. I think I'll just go to a fortune teller. Might as well. Like, I'm going to try it all. I went to Crystal's. Yeah, I've had somebody that came up to me, and I was meeting with her, and she could speak the language. And she's like, well, when I had my chakra read, and I went, wait, what? No, we're not going to do that. And so she's like, I don't understand. Like, why not? And so, and that's okay. That's where she is, and that's okay. But she needs me to talk to her. She needs me to not shame her. She needs me just to go, hey, let's open up Scripture.
You guys know what we mean by it's okay? It's not okay you stay there.
Right.
It's good that you're sharing that.
Right.
You know where you are.
Right. So let's move on to children. So if we're thinking biologically children, it's very similar. They are very self-focused. It's all about me. All right? And so when it's all about me, these other people that are bouncing off of me are making me mad. So they tend to throw tantrums, right? They tend to not like the music because it's too loud or it's too soft or it's too this or they didn't do the right drum kit or they didn't play the songs that they normally do. Or why do they play the same songs all the time, right? They're the ones that the Word of God, though, is starting to become alive for them. Right? They're starting to read it for themselves. They're literate, so they are reading it for themselves, but they still aren't sure exactly what that means. And that's okay. Again, remember, this is where they are, and that's not a bad thing. It's just you need to know your starting point. So you don't go in there teaching some big theological, doctrine, and they just look and you go, oh, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. And they have no idea what you're talking about. You're talking about sanctification, and they're like, oh, yeah, for sure. And they may play along, but they may not really understand what you're talking about. So be kind and gentle. Know that they are going to be self-centered. Know that you are going to get frustrated because they're going to get upset that childcare didn't do this or that you didn't have the right, a lot of the same things that infants do, but they're a lot louder a lot of times because they've been in the church for a while. And so they know what should be happening in their mind. And the church isn't cutting it. They are thankful for deep relationships, though, because they probably have never had them before. I know JP's had this experience, especially with men, is a lot of times they've never had deep relationships where they actually shared life. And a lot of times with the women that I walk with, they haven't had somebody like the person I told earlier that actually showed them grace. They were just used to having a leader lord over them. And so she had shame and guilt, so she would never share things that actually happened because it was also, though, children will take Children are taking from the church. Imagine if you had an entire church filled with mature people. Imagine how many other people would be attracted to that church, right? But you're still going to have children.
Imagine how they would be in their own community where they live,
right,
work, and play at that level.
Right. So children lack wisdom. So if you can think of it as they lack wisdom because they're not mature enough to have wisdom yet. So if you look at a child, like, why does a child not touch the stove? Well, at first they don't touch it because they're being obedient. Now, children may be obedient to God's word. They don't know why they're being obedient until they touch the stove. And then they get burned and they pull their hand and like, oh, that's why the rule is there, right? So these children spiritually may test the system a little bit. And they may dabble in some things and you're like, yeah, that's not a good idea. And then they do it anyway and they get burned. And you're like, sorry that you made that choice. Come on back. Let's not do that next time. And let's talk about why you decided to do it this time. And so they need places to be able to be safe, to make mistakes as they are exploring what truly following the word means. They will copy the way of believers. So a lot of times spiritual children will copy the way of somebody that's more mature. They just may not have their heart in the right place. All right. So they may do the right thing, but not with the right heart. So like I said this morning, I was a spiritual child, emotional child probably. And one of the women that's staying in our house with us, I disciple her and she's 21. And I went, and I was about to just rant about the whole situation. And I caught myself and was like, this is not the example I need to be giving. Was my heart yet in the right place? No. But I was making the right decision because I knew the right decision to make. I still hadn't turned my heart yet. Eventually
Can I say something real quick about that, by the way? We're going to talk about this a little bit later. Maturity is also knowing that you can rant a little, but you got to know who to rant to.
Right.
And if they can handle what you're saying.
Yes. So some of the things that a spiritual child might say. I like my home group. Let's just keep it the way it is. It never needs to change, right? This church is not taking care of my needs. Like, do you know they canceled the one ministry that is really the most important to me, and they're not even doing it anymore? I think I probably need to go to a different church. Like I said earlier, I don't like the songs. They're so boring. I'll probably need to go to that church down the street. Someone in my group offended me. I'm leaving, which happened down here, right? I have been at this church for 10 years. We've always done it this way. Why would we need to change? Anybody heard any of those? Yeah? Those are children, okay? So now we have young adults. So young adults are growing. They're becoming others-focused. They're starting to think about, oh, wait, there are other people in the room. Have you all had teenagers where all of a sudden they discover that? They're like, oh, wait a minute. Or maybe they get into their 20s and it happens. They're like, wait, you're a person? Wait, you have feelings? So they start doing stuff? Right. What? Yeah. They desire to serve, and it's usually from a good place. Now, they won't understand boundaries. They won't understand, when they're serving too much. They may not understand what great is versus good when it comes to serving or doing or things like that. They usually have a lot of energy to get things done for the kingdom. They are the people that need a playground to play in, and we'll talk more about that. But they're asking questions, and they're wanting to know the next level. So a child just is like, I don't touch a stove because it burns me. The young adult is going, okay, so maybe I need to stay further back away from the stove. I'm not going to go anywhere near the stove. Whereas the kid is like, I'm just going to get just this close to the stove, right? And the young adult is starting to understand a little bit more about having to stay a little bit further away from sin, a little bit maybe further away from the friends they used to hang out with. The things that actually are going to change their behavior in a way that walks with their walk with Christ. So they might be making a few less slip-ups, but their heart and their behavior is starting to connect. Things that they might say is, I love my home group. There should be more people that get to enjoy this. How can we make that happen, right? And then you still have to talk to them about the hard stuff. That means that you won't see your friends all the time. Oh, no, I'll make room for that. And so they're finding solutions to the problems that they have. David hasn't come to home group for a while. I think I'll give him a call. Or I should probably go, they said something in their prayer request that really, God's kind of working on me that I should probably give them a text and maybe we'll have coffee. So they're starting to get out of themselves and they're starting to look for ways to love other people well. And like I said, they're going to do that and they're going to need some direction to do it. But, or they might come up to you and go, you know what? I was studying scripture in my quiet time and I just don't understand this. Can you help me? So they start coming to you with a humble place of understanding that they need discipleship. And that's a beautiful place because nothing feels better than somebody actually wanting it, right? They're looking for places to serve. So parents are reproducing disciples. You can't be a parent without having a child, right? So these people are reproducing disciples, all right? These spiritual parents, they're intentional about their own growth because they want to be able to have people that they're doing this with and this for, okay? So if somebody, and when I'm talking about spiritual parents, I'm equating also the emotional maturity in there, okay? So we're talking about it going all the way up, not just on the spiritual plane. But so these emotional spiritual parents are mature in the sense that they understand people are watching them. People are looking at how they're living their lives, and they want people to be able to emulate that, right? So they also have people that are transparent, that they are transparent with. So the people that they are discipling, they're going, yeah, whew, did I screw up? Like the young woman that was that's at the house with me. I told her as soon as I got up, I'm like, oh my gosh, guess what I did last night? And she's like, whoops. I'm like, exactly. And so she needs to see that I'm going to have to wrestle sometimes. And she needs to know that about me. And then she needs to know what I did or what I didn't do. And I said, I'm still struggling with it. I'm still like fighting a little bit, but I think I'm back on track. And so she needs to see that because she's going to wrestle too. And so she needs to be able to see that as a spiritual parent, I am teaching her what to do, right? In the same situations. They understand the Great Commission and they're all in it. They want to do it. They know how to work together as a team. They also know when they need to remove themselves. So there are some that it's just not the right fit for. There are people that it's not the right fit for me to disciple them. I understand that. And so I will just try to put somebody else with them because I'm on staff and that's what I need to do. But if it's somebody else that I've seen people where they're like, I really feel like I'm supposed to disciple this person. I'm like, all right, we'll go have coffee and see what happens. And they're afterwards, they're like, yeah, no, I don't think it's going to work because X, Y, Z. And I'm like, okay. But it's this idea that they are looking for opportunities to do that. Spiritual parents are living the discipleship lifestyle. They understand good teaching. They have openness and honesty. They have accountability in their life. So they have people that they are in mutual relationship with to be able to love each other well and to hold each other accountable. So like my husband is in JP's life. So yesterday when this person came to us and all of a sudden this marriage is imploding, JP got really grief-stricken, which is understandable. So I go to my husband and I'm like, hey, so you need to go love on JP. Or if my husband's struggling,
and
I do the same thing.
The scenario was, it was in the foyer right before I was going to preach.
Which I wasn't planning on letting him know until after we preached, but he walked up.
But I walked up and was like, hey, what? There seems to be, and it's like, yeah, here's what's going on. I'm like, oh, hey, what? And grief, now it's like, now go preach on using the gifts of the Spirit in the body. And,
feels real good.
My heart was broken.
But that's the reality, right? And he needed help. And so my goal is to give a parent or grandparent over to him to help him. And I do the same thing for my husband. And when I'm not the right fit for him at times, he needs a man. And so I'm like, hey, JP, would you please call him? Because, like, he's not doing well and I don't have the patience for it right now. Or whatever, you know. Well, I'm just not the right person.
Hey, that's fair.
Right. You know,
Safe place.
Right, exactly. So it's not being recorded or anything.
We love you, Mike.
Right. So they're also shepherding, okay? And they're training, both they're being trained as well as they're training other people, okay? There's a cycle of discipleship that spiritual parents understand and they participate in. So they're feeding themselves, they're feeding others, they're teaching others to feed themselves, right? and they're teaching those people to feed others. So it's this continuation process. They're not just going, well, I've done my 2 people, so I'm good. Never going to disciple again, right? They're looking for opportunities to do it because this is what they do. This is their focus. I told somebody one time, I'm like, no, I wake up thinking about the people that I'm discipling and how to get them to the next place. Like, how am I going to engage them that day? And that's a disciple maker, right? And so that's where your spiritual parents are. Because, like, if you have kids in the home, you don't just go, today I don't feel like it. Today, do they really need to be fed? Like, so I did yesterday, I gave them 3 meals. Today, not so much, So your spiritual parents will find somebody to disciple. Okay, so, there are ways to be looking for spiritual parents because you start seeing people who actually have a loud voice in other people's ears. So I will be talking to somebody and she'll like, oh yeah, so-and-so called me to have coffee and she had such good insight about da-da-da-da. And I'm like, okay. And then I might hear from somebody else about this same person. I'm like, okay, so then I have coffee with the person to start feeling it out. I'm like, yeah, that's a spiritual parent. That's somebody that's ready, that's wanting to disciple people. That's what they're headed into. And that's a beautiful thing. But you also want to make sure they're being led by the Spirit. And so you need to be asking the questions that ask about their spiritual life. Like, are they doing this from an overflow or are they doing this from an empty place? Spiritual parents are peacemakers. They're not the ones causing division within your church. If you've got somebody that's causing division in your church, they are not a spiritual parent. And so that takes a lot of people right off your list, right? All of a sudden you're like going through the list and you're like, oh, okay, no. They're not. They're peacemakers. And it's not that they agree with everything. They don't. I mean, Bobby will tell you the first thing, I do not agree with everything. He and I don't always agree, right? We respect each other, and we will come out of a room, and I will support whatever decision that he actually came to. But I know that he's respected my input, and he's heard me, and then we move from there,
and
right?
By the way, one of the things I do love about Bobby is that he doesn't agree with everything. We don't agree.
Right.
And it's healthy.
Right.
We can have those conversations, and it's healthy.
Yes. So some things a spiritual parent might say, a friend asked me to study the Bible with them. So will you pray for me as I begin it? Great. Yeah. They don't say, hey, somebody wants to study the Bible. Will you get with them? Right? Everybody's heard that. I know everybody's heard that. Right? It may be for the leader. I can see spiritual growth in my group. I think Bob is ready to lead his own group. I can't wait for it to happen. It's going to be so exciting. Did you hear that, this guy that I discipled, he just baptized somebody. And they're super excited about that. They didn't have to do the baptizing. They were more excited that somebody else baptized, right? So now we've got grandparents. So this is the one that I think a lot of people, we skip.
Hey, by the way, can I go back to that baptism one real quick? I just want to focus on a great disciple-making moment.
Yeah.
When a lot of times someone will come to someone who's paid minister and say, "Can you baptize?"
Yeah.
Like that's what they do. They'll think that's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
One of the things that's awesome about a spiritual parent is when they find someone who says, "My friend wants to get baptized. I've been sharing the Bible with them," and they say, "Great, you're going to baptize them. I'm going to be with you while you do."
Exactly.
It's like lights go off. They're like, "I can do." Yes, you can do that.
Yes.
It's awesome.
Yes. And sometimes we have to, as staff, encourage the parent to go, "Yeah, this is right," because they're like, "But is it? Like I haven't seen other people do it." And you're like, "No, this is the way it's supposed to be." So a grandparent. These are multiplying disciple makers, okay? So they're a couple generations up, right? And as they're looking at people, they're looking for parents to be able to encourage to become grandparents, all right? Now, it's not to say that they're not also looking further down the pike, but there are fewer grandparents than there are the other ones, right? And so they need to be able to spend their time going from probably young adult and parent to get them to grandparent, right? And so because they're the ones that they have the vision for multiple generations out. There is no better feeling than when somebody comes up to me and they tell me this great insight that they heard. And I know that I told it to this woman, and this person told it to this person, and this person discipled this person. And I'm like, great grandparent right there, right? And they never need to know that. They don't even know that I discipled the first person. Like, they don't know that. And that's beautiful. That's like a golden day, right? And that's what we're looking for, right? But we need to be able to identify those people, because what's going to happen is they're going to come into your church, maybe from another church. And you're not going to know them. And you're like, okay, well, it's going to take me a good solid 10 years to know you, to know if you're going to be if you're going to be a grandparent. And you ain't got 10 years. You don't have the time to be able to do that, because your plate's getting more and more full, and you're all of a sudden like, oh, I've got too many people here. And so they are looking at long-term, they're kingdom-focused. They obviously have a great working knowledge of Scripture. They are able to apply it. They're able to apply it also to scenarios. Like, they can look at something and see the bigger picture versus just the one little event. They can go, yeah, don't die on that hill. Like, think long game. And so they can coach a family in that, because they're able to do that, because they're able to be removed from it a little bit. They live a transparent life, similar to the parent, but...
I saw a hand go up.
Oh, yeah?
I know. We talked about questions at the end, but we're breaking the rule. Go.
No, it's okay. It's all right.
It's okay.
Can you alternate between these two then? Because if you're a disciple maker and you're making a disciple, then aren't you technically still a parent because you're still making a disciple?
Yes.
That's where my confusion's coming
Yes
from.
and yes. So yes, you are still a parent because you're making more disciples, but
it's the generational
part. It's actually looking at it going, I am making this disciple so that they can make disciples.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Disciple do that, and I'm like, but I wouldn't consider myself a grandparent.
Yeah.
All I did was make a disciple who then followed and made a disciple.
You're a grandparent. You're a great grandparent. Yes. Right.
I'm only 32.
Congratulations. There aren't a lot of you.
What's your name? Tom, congrats.
Congrats.
Man.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Because the big difference is that you're giving them the vision to be able to reproduce.
That's right.
So you're not doing it in such a vacuum that it only applies to them. Like, you're giving them principles that actually are more generalized so they can understand how to do that. That's great. They build intentional relationships. They coach others. There's humility, obedience, servanthood. They're driven by a love for the kingdom. I mean, there's a humility there that should just ooze out. They're champions for other disciple makers. Like, they want to see that happen. I've had people in my home that I wasn't discipling because they didn't have a place to meet. So I'm like, yeah, come on over to my house. Yep. Because you don't have a place to meet is not going to be a reason why you aren't discipling somebody. So come on over. I'll leave, or I can be there, whatever. And so they're looking at trying to help others actually do it. And they have freedom. They're living a life from a place of joy for the kingdom work that they're doing. And that's a beautiful thing, because that's contagious. That's what people are attracted to, right? Jesus' original intent in Matthew 28 was that his disciples would make disciples who would make disciples with multiplying movement. And in 2 Timothy, Paul encourages Timothy to follow his example by becoming a spiritual grandparent. And the things you have heard me say in the presence of many witnesses, entrust to reliable people who will also be qualified to teach others. Right? So it keeps going. So what's some statements that grandparents make? I'm praying for God to show me who is next. Who should I invest my time in? I'm going to rearrange my schedule to try to make sure that I meet where the child needs to meet, or where the parent needs to meet.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
If someone's like, I just don't have time to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not a grandparent even in the making.
I don't have time.
Right? And so we have a man in our church that he came new to us. He retired and moved to the area, and he comes into our home group, and we had never met him, and he really didn't even know us. And he's like, "All right, I just need to lay all my cards on the table." And we're like, "Okay." He's like, "I want to make disciple makers, and I want you guys to show me how to do it." He's like, I've been watching this church from afar, because he had moved from somewhere else. He's like, you guys know how to do it, and I need you to teach me how to do it. And that's what I'm going to build my days around. And we're like, okay, game on. Fantastic. And he's doing it. He's doing it's beautiful. It's beautiful. He's doing it. Like if we call him because we're meeting with somebody, he's like, yeah, I'll do it. He's like, well, I've got this, but I can rearrange that. No worries, I'll get it. And he's doing it. A little easier for him because he's retired. I get that, but still. They get joy from watching the multiplication happen. Truly. Like that's your grandparent. So I'm going to give you a couple scenarios, and I want you to tell me where they fall, right? So Bob. I don't know why I keep using the name Bob. It's not because of Bobby. Because nobody calls him Bob. But all right. He's 31 years old. He's single. Loves to volunteer in student ministry. Recently asked if he could take a 13-year-old girl to give her a ride to church because she didn't have a ride to get to youth group. Super innocent question when he asked. Obviously, he's not allowed to, but why would he even act like what would he be at if he loves to volunteer, his heart's in the right place. He just may not know all the ins and outs
Maybe
yet.
he's just unaware socially.
Right. Young adult. Exactly. He's a young adult, right? All right, we've got Sarah and Kevin. Sarah loves being a mom. She posts on Instagram everywhere. She's got, bikini shots at the beach playing with her little girls. She doesn't like that our church doesn't do infant baptism, so she's going to take it to her mom's Catholic church. She's posted her kids' zodiac signs. So she's married to Kevin. Kevin, while he doesn't exactly agree with Sarah, he didn't want her family to be mad, so he was like, okay. Like, you can we'll go to the Catholic Church and get it done. But you know what? He's struggling because his workout interferes with him getting into a group. So, what's Sarah?
One.
She's an infant. She's an infant, yeah. And so who's she married to? Yeah, she's married to a child.
By the way, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Lots of people, you'll find marriages where there's a spiritual child, by the way, who believes they're not a spiritual child.
Right.
They're actually way more mature than that, who are married to a spiritual infant. And that's who's in our church and who we need to love. But it's like a dumpster fire sometimes. Is that okay to say?
Yes.
Like, do you know what I mean by that? It's just, it's ugly.
Yeah.
It gets ugly. And we got to know how to love them.
Exactly. And be reminded, you have a lot of counselors out there that are not basing their advice on biblical principles. And so you have this spiritual, emotional infant and child together, and they've got a counselor telling them that they should just be happy. Like they deserve to be happy.
Yeah.
And obviously their spouse doesn't make them happy. And so then they're coming to the church. You're not going to tell them that same thing. And so you have to be able to walk alongside them. And you have to know who to put in their path to help walk alongside them if you can't. And that needs to be somebody that's mature enough to love them well with a lot of grace because they're spilling the milk when they walk across the carpet. And that takes you knowing who your people are, right? And knowing where they are.
And in the situation of the marriages, we need healthy marriages in our churches to where another couple can walk alongside a couple like that and help navigate all of the things that they're missing.
We are saying from experience.
Yeah,
we desperately need that right now. Yeah.
Could you have done a dedication?
What do you mean?
Instead of infant baptism?
Oh, well, yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Which is what we do. Yes. So our last one, Steve recently made the statement, I want to spend all my time making a difference. So he rearranged his schedule and he sacrifices time for children's ministry. We asked him to meet with somebody. He bends over backwards to make it happen, to make it really convenient for the other person. He creates a plan to help them grow. He is looking at them with intent and with specifics for that individual. What is he?
Young adult.
Probably either parent or a grandparent. Probably closer getting to a grandparent because he's doing it with intentionality. And he's doing it as a sacrificial intentionality. So we did want to touch on one thing, spiritual gifts versus spiritual maturity. Okay, so lots of people will be like, well, I'm just not a disciple maker. I'm not gifted like with people. And you're like, what? That's not even an option. There's not a clause in the Great Commission that says only if you're gifted for it, right? Or you get your people that are gifted teachers. And they start working their way up as far as spiritual maturity, or at least what people believe they are spiritually mature because they're a gifted teacher. Or they're gifted in service, like they can serve like no one's business. But man, if you were to hear them talk about their service in the bathroom, like it's not good. And so we have to be careful that the person that's always at the church 24/7 serving or is the amazing Bible teacher, they may not be spiritually mature. And so we have to separate that out, some of the giftings and the maturity. So that goes back to really looking at that fruit. Like, are they serving from a place of goodness? Are they serving from a place of joy? Are they serving from a place of peace? Are they serving from all of the gifts of the Spirit? Is that where they're serving from? Or are they serving from a place of like, this is what I'm supposed to do because I'm a good Christian? And that looks real different.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Real Life Theology Podcast. Please comment, like, subscribe. We would love to hear from you guys. Coming up next, we've got part 3 of this series, which will touch on pathways to growth and healing.